Welcome!
We're excited to talk about
Dark Matter by Blake Crouch.
Dark Matter. It's a great book. Or is it?
I was just about to ask you that. Because when I talked to him a couple of days ago, I don't know that he said that it was a great book then.
Well, we're going to find out.
We are going to find out. I'm excited.
Okay.
I don't know what he thinks of it, so this will be enlightening for all of us.
The mystery.
Yeah.
Well, we have a standard agenda for this now.
We do.
We can start out with things we like.
Our favorite moments.
Basically, pros and cons. But to keep this from going on, we will just do one pro and one con. So not pros and cons, but pro and con.
Okay.
And then, not predictions, but overall rating.
Okay.
First, we'll start with the positive.
Yeah.
The pro. What did you like about this book?
So, I'm not a big thriller reader or sci-fi. They're not my favorite genres. And so I had a friend that was reading this for a book club several years ago, and she wanted me to read it for my thoughts on it. And so that's why I read it. So I read it several years ago, and then I read it again for this book club. So this is my second read through. And my biggest pro is that it was a concept that I had never read before. And because I don't read thrillers and I don't read sci-fi, this idea of a multiverse was kind of new to me in that context. And so it was just a roller coaster from start to finish, and I couldn't put it down. And the second time I read it, because it had been so long, it was the same way. I was like, I gotta know how this ends. And it was just, it's exciting.
Spider-Verse?
Like the Spider-Man.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then Doctor Strange and the multiverse.
Yeah, I didn't like those. I didn't like the concepts of a multiverse in that context either. Like, it's not it's not something that I particularly enjoy.
Calamity?
I also struggled with it.
Of the Reckoner series?
Yeah, I also struggled with it there.
All
so
right.
it's not...
I was just curious if you did make those connections, but
yes,
you don't
I did,
like those.
but I didn't like them. I didn't like that concept being brought into those stories. It's like with time travel. I struggle with books in time travel as well. They have to be convincing to me. It has to make sense. And it also has to be a concept that is easy to explain and to understand. I shouldn't have to go back through and read it to understand what's happening. And I didn't have to do that. It was laid out for me as we went through the story. And so it was understandable. And anyways, I
Excellent.
liked it. Yeah.
Well, my pro, is it similar? Maybe. I appreciate how the science was interleaved with the story. A few years back, I ran into a guy. I was at a conference next to a guy who was teaching about quantum computing.
Yes.
Mind-blowing. He gave a little 30-minute presentation over and over, and I was next to him in a different booth for several days. And man, I tried to wrap my head around it, and it was just mind-blowing stuff. And this book does a great job of extending a topic that was already interesting and edgy science-wise. I don't know if it could or
is plausible.
Be real. Yeah, plausible or whatever.
Yeah.
But it digs into the right mysteries that, that part was interesting.
Believable.
And believable.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess believable is a decent way to say it. But at its core, I don't think it was about the science. Like, the science was there. It was and that's why I say interleaved. But at the core, I feel like this was a love story.
Which he said this to me a couple of days ago, and it wasn't even a concept that I had thought about at all in either of my two readings.
She doesn't believe in love. That's what she's saying.
I don't read romance books. They kind of drive me crazy.
We are far afield there. Anyway.
You're never going to get a romance novel review from us.
Oh, I bet we will.
Somebody else is going to have to suggest that on our Facebook book club in order for us to both read a romance novel.
Yeah. Anyway, so, it was a book that I think at its fundamental level was about something else, but this heavy dose of science that was edgy enough that it was almost fantasy, but it was science, and it was compelling enough that it moved the story forward, but I didn't feel like took over. And so... well done, Barty Crouch. I wanted to call it Barty Crouch the whole time.
Now
His name's Blake.
Blake Crouch. I'm like,
Sorry,
what's
Blake.
his name? He totally
Mr. Crouch.
Blake Crouch. Anyways,
Junior. Sorry. I'm editing that out. Okay. So those were our pros.
Yeah.
Okay. Now to cons. Do you want to go first again?
No, you can go because I have to think of one.
No, she did not come to class prepared.
I didn't come to class prepared.
Well,
normally I'm prepared, and this time I'm not prepared.
I did.
Okay. Go for it.
A few of the characters were pretty flimsy. It's like this character only exists.
There's only one character. There's Jared, and that's it.
His name is Jason.
Jason.
Since there's only one character, kind of felt like you would have nailed that.
Sorry.
No, actually, there's Daniela.
Yes, and Charlie.
And Charlie, and Jason number 2, who's a distinct character.
That's true.
And
Jason number 1 and 2.
And who is the next main character? Because this is my poster child.
Amanda.
Yes.
Yeah.
Why did Amanda exist? What were Amanda's goals, hopes, and dreams? Who was she as a person? Where did she go?
That is very true. She just got drug in there.
She showed up with the purpose of saving the main character and giving him a path out. Mm-hmm. She played off him to, she was the proverbial test. She tested his commitment and to see if he was really going to stay the course and
stay true to Daniela.
And search for his wife, or if he was willing to go other directions. And once all the tests and her purpose had passed, she disappeared.
She did.
Ne'er to be heard from again.
Yeah, she doesn't come up again.
Nope. She's gone. And I'm sure she's happy somewhere, but we would never know because we don't know she needs to be happy because we know nothing about her.
Well, you hope she's in the right multiverse where it's not freezing or there's been a nuclear bomb or...
I mean,
something like
the
that.
pieces are there that you can imagine her in a some sort of positive scenario because she was there to learn how the thing worked.
Right.
And she had enough shots of the drug.
Right.
Yeah, she was given the drug, so she had control and several bites at the apple. We're using all kinds of metaphors here.
The doors.
Yeah, to go and find somewhere where she could be happy. So I'm sure she's happy. But we don't get to know about that. We don't get to know about her.
No.
You're not supposed to really ask too many questions about her. She's supposed to fade into the background. And I think it's a missed opportunity. There were moments where, and one of the things that really made it obvious to me that she was a problem is she would have these emotional responses. And it's like, oh, why is she so feisty? And then it's like, oh, actually know nothing about her as a character. Is she a really emotionally based? Like, is this...
You didn't know a backstory. You didn't know anything about her.
Is this her personality? Is this right for her? I was trying to figure her out in the early part, and I thought that she had had a relationship with Jason too.
Oh.
Because that would have given her a reason to go save him.
Yeah.
And a reason for her to also attach to Jason number 1.
Right.
And I waited for that to come up. And through all of the scenes of his trials, temptations, whatever you want to call them, never came up. I don't think it happened. But it was an obvious, like they could have had some sort of, physical relationship or something that she felt, why did she sacrifice her whole life? She did. She sacrificed her entire life for him.
Yeah, she did. She gave up everything, like her original...
Her world.
Path, her original storyline, if you want to call it that.
Yeah,
she gave up all
everything.
That.
And it was because, I don't think what they're doing is right. Yeah, okay, we all get to those places, but we usually don't,
It's a little flimsy.
Sacrifice yourself. Yeah, it's really flimsy.
It's really flimsy.
And in general, there's a few characters like that. Yeah. Charlie is a little flimsy. I appreciate the close relationship we had, but he acted like a 10-year-old in a 15-year-old's body.
Yeah.
No 15-year-old is that reasonable or affectionate to their father. I've had some.
You had 4.
And, and I love them all. And they were all good kids. Charlie was not a real character. All I got to say about that.
He served a purpose. He needed to do what he needed to do. And the author just... kept him in that lane.
Yeah, definition of a flimsy character is they don't have their own purpose. They are there to move the story along and support the main character in their path. So anyway, okay, that was that went on a long time.
That was your con?
Yeah, my con. We need a little bell. That tells me my
Ding!
time's up.
My turn. My con is that at the end, Jason is trying to outsmart all of the hundreds of other Jasons. And he is saying, I need to think about this in a different way so that I can get to Daniela first before everybody else can get to him. And I'm like, aren't the other 100 plus Jasons that are out there also doing that same thing? Because they're all the same person. So they're all thinking about how they're going to outsmart each other and do something different than the way that they would have done it. And so that part was a little like, that was convenient to make sure that you, Jason 1, were the one to get to Daniela and Charlie first. But it worked out.
Interesting.
So
I will admit, okay, now we're just going on a tangent here. I was waiting for the moment. There's a huge potential plot twist that would have just been mind-blowing and complicated. And Mr. Crouch decided to not go there. Good choice. My choice, this would have been worse. But
I'm waiting at bated breath for what that is.
The moment we find out that our Jason is the reader isn't the right one.
Oh.
What is to say with all the Jasons out there that the one that we have been following?
Yes.
And that would have thrown the whole world would have adjusted.
Yes.
And yet the same ending could have happened.
Yeah.
And for the moment, and to see Daniela walk through that door with a different Jason who was the right one, and for him to come to terms and realize that there was a better choice in his past to be that Jason that he didn't make. And it would have turned into...
been way more complicated.
Oh, way more complicated. Almost would have turned it into a tragedy, but the option was there, and I was kind of... There was a moment, or 5, I was waiting for that, and it didn't happen. And it's a good choice, but...
Were you... was there at any point when you were reading that you were okay with her ending up with a different Jason? Was it like, yes, she can end up with Jason number 12, or whatever?
I think by the end... I mean, of those Jasons, we followed a Jason.
Right.
But any of those who had made it through, let's say, the ice world and... Or somewhere in there, made it through the initial trials, I would say, those steps, largely became similar people.
Yes.
And based on how the story's written... probably any of those guys could have made her happy, and they could have, and it could have been a successful ending.
Right.
And it would have been hard as a reader, but again, I think there was a way to set that up, but it would have made it very complicated. So I think it's good that he did.
Very complicated.
Anyway, that's my...
Did you like the ending? Was the ending satisfying for you? Okay, this goes to final thoughts. Final thoughts.
Final thought.
Yes.
Okay, before I go there, overall, I give this a 4 out of 5.
Which is surprising to me.
I liked it. It was a little heavy on some of the language and adult scenes.
They were kind of thrown in there haphazardly.
Haphazardly. And I think they all could have been pulled out without taking anything away from the book. And this is totally my personal bias. Is, I don't, in my real world life, there's certain language I don't use and certain lifestyles and stuff I don't participate in.
Right.
And so when I encounter them in books, I understand that that's not how those characters are living. It's not wrong for them. I don't feel like I come from a judgy place.
Right.
It's like a food that you don't hate, but you don't really like. And it's like, oh, this meal would have been better without the peas. I know they're nutritional or they're fine and other people like them, but man, if they were not here, I would be just fine. So it's 4 out of 5. The one thing about the ending, the overall ending of them escaping into the multiverse totally makes sense. I'm okay with it. Having Charlie pick the door, again, he's kind of a flat character, and he was like, he was once again serving his purpose, so
But it made sense to me. Like, that part was, I guess, solidifying for me that the multiverse existed because of Jason and Daniela, and Charlie was not a part of that, and so him being able to pick that final door they walked through kind of stopped the multiverse from continuing to multiply them. And I like that part. Is that not what really happened? Did I not understand it?
I think the way you described that departed from the science of the book a little bit. The multiverse continues for everybody.
All those other people.
It's just their multiverse without him to influence. They're out there, but these Jasons really have no key or way to decipher which one of the infinite doors they just walked through, because Charlie became the key to that specific one. So it didn't stop per se, but I'm nitpicking. It was fine. It was good.
Okay.
The thing that did bug me at the end is of the, let's just say there was 100. I don't know how many Jasons were in the room. 50, yes. 100, 1,000, whatever. Of the 100 Jasons, and we'd already seen Jasons that had gone off the rails,
yes.
and had murder in their hearts, or whatever. Of that group, I would have expected some portion of them to not be able to put Daniela's needs first. And Charlie's needs first, and to fight. And I think that the better scene would have been some percentage, call it 30%, fight and try to physically stop them. And the other Jasons actually see the right of the moment and defend the path. And then it's a much more contentious scene. Yeah. And they make it to the door and they end the same way. But that contention, and what it would have told me, I mean, the message it would have sent for me in that book, is that the average of Jason was a good guy. Oh. Because when you look at it, the average of that group is kind of his potential outcomes. Right. And it's like more often than not,
we're all good guys.
Yeah. Well, some people might have a darker future or darker alternate. But more often than not, he was a guy who was going to put Daniela in front. And again, it's a love story, so I think that makes sense. You know, it was another way to show that he really loved her, and he was going to put her needs first. And it would have been an interesting way to cement that, have that scene have a little more action in it. It felt a little humdrum to just have him stare them all in the eyes and walk through them quietly. And why does he get to win? And then they all just sulk. So I feel like that was a missed opportunity, but an overall good book.
Now that you brought up the love story part, it totally makes sense for me. As I think about it, like Jason went through all of that because he had to get back to Daniela and Charlie. Like he had to get back to his family. He was fighting against himself, all of the different Jasons the whole time, because he loved them and he wanted to get back to them against all odds and against all costs. And that is at its core a love story.
And it's interesting, Jason number 2 said, well, wait, we both get the best of both worlds. I got to be rich and successful, and you got to have a family, and now we're switched. This is your chance to
experience
have both.
That. Yeah.
And he said, I don't want both.
Yeah.
That does mean there's probably another Jason of all of the Jasons who did choose that. You know, was there a Jason who stayed and took up the life of rich and successful scientist and left Daniela behind?
And wasn't really him? Yeah. I mean, was him, but was it really him?
Yeah, there was another branch possible.
Yeah. It's just hard to the multiverse for me is just, it hurts my brain. And I think I felt like this was very contained so that it didn't extend too far beyond like trying to grasp the concept. And so that's why I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great book. And I think I gave it 5 stars both times because the thriller aspect is spot on. I enjoyed it.
Wow. Yeah, 5 stars.
I did. Both times.
Okay. That was a good wrap up. We should end right now, except I have one more thing to say. There were some plot holes I felt like. Oh, the whole thing was good. I'm sometimes a little nitpicky, maybe a little perfectionist. I don't know.
He's analytical.
Thank you. That was a nice way to say it.
Yes, you're very analytical.
You know, he talked at one point about he was talking to Daniela, and I've seen you in so many different scenarios, and with me and without and with other people, and blah, blah, blah. And the multiverse in this case really focused on Jason and his decisions.
Right.
But it's more complex than that because everybody else in each one of those universes has their own decisions they're making, creating other branches. Right. And
it just multiplies. Like that's why it hurts my brain.
But it multiplies across many variables. Because, the same Jason might have had a Daniela who made 2 choices, but he's the same one.
Right.
And so now there's 2, but then he makes a choice, and now instead of 2, there's 4, and it's just...
Yes.
Anyway.
Yes.
So
it multiplies very quickly, exponentially, and it's hard to keep it contained.
And so to your point, he did do a good job of keeping it simple.
Yes.
Like I said, he could have turned the tables and had the right Jason be a different one, and that would have hurt our brains. And he didn't do that. So I think that was well played.
Yes.
So excellent. Good read. Enjoyed it. And
are we going to watch the movie? The Apple series?
The TV series?
I think we should.
We may. Are we going to come back and talk about it here? Probably not.
Probably not.
Yeah,
but we should watch it just as comparison
kind of
and, all that.
Okay. Next book. All right.
We will know that by the end of this week, the next book the two of us are reading.
Or we'll just pick one.
Or we can pick one as
or
well.
We'll pick one. So, okay. Thanks for watching.
Bye.
I'm cutting those out.
I know you will. We are here to talk about a book that we've both read.
I think you should start over.
How should I start?
I don't know, but not with "we are here."
Okay. Hello, friends. It's time to discuss a new book.
I think we should start again.
What do you want me to do?
I don't know. Give me some options.
Howdy.
Nope. Starting again. We are excited.
Ooh, welcome.
We are excited to talk about...
No, that sounds super bland.